I'm sure you've seen a whole lot of right-wingers attacking those in LA, mocking people who've been struggling, implying that they deserve in some way their own suffering.
John Iadarola and the team at the Young Turks takes a look at an outrageous Charlie Kirk comment about the LA wildfires and just in general about how there's a blame game going around about, the fires, the horrible, devastating fires in Los Angeles. We're going to take a look at this clip together. I'm going to pipe in with my comments, and then I want to know what you think in the comments section, but let's get into it.
And when California in a couple of weeks comes crawling back for federal assistance, Trump should say, listen, I'm not going to give you a dime unless you fire the lesbian Christians.
Okay, so that's a very strange thing for a person to be paid millions of dollars a year to say, but lesbians exist, and that continues to bother Charlie Kirk on a very deep level. He's never going to actually articulate, because he can't articulate how someone being a lesbian would mean that they're not capable of running a fire department. He is just assuming that the people he screeches at every day will agree right off the bat that that is true. And if they're not lesbians, then God help us if they were black or Hispanic or something, he would have an automatic problem with that too. And so Donald Trump should do, according to Charlie Kirk, what Donald Trump has said he'd do, which is because California is a blue state, because LA is pretty liberal, he should block them from getting aid unless they bend over backwards for him. So Charlie Kirk is saying that Donald Trump should do to LA what no Democratic president would ever do to a red state, to a red city, perhaps that's experienced horrendous winter storms in the case of Texas, or hurricanes in the case of North and South Carolina and Florida, or again, Texas. If a train were to derail in a rural area where there's a lot of conservatives, no Democrat would ever manipulate those people. No, what they would do, what they do is they jump to it and they get them the aid that they need. That's what every president should do. Charlie Kirk wants to change that. The norm should no longer be that everyone is deserving of the aid of the federal government. Now, no, elections have consequences, and so your side gets aid and the other side doesn't. What Charlie Kirk wants is, in 4 years, when the collective failures of the Trump administration almost necessarily result in the White House being taken by a Democrat, he wants that Democrat to be just as vindictive and biased and partisan when it comes to allocating federal aid under him as Donald Trump will be for the next 4 years. And so conservatives are probably cheering for the bias that Charlie Kirk is advocating for right now, but understand that he's setting the stage for the Democrats in theory to do the same thing to them in the future.
Well, the other thing is even more recently than this video, they're making noises. Trump is making noises about shutting down FEMA, right? And red states, Texas, Louisiana, Florida, are overwhelmingly the biggest recipients of FEMA money. He's proposing that states handle it themselves. Well, the red states benefit incredibly disproportionately from federal money over the blue states, right? A state like Massachusetts receives almost no federal money in comparison to the other states. So this every state for itself would not be good for red states.
I think that's wrong. I want everyone to get helped by the federal government. Unfortunately, Charlie Kirk doesn't see it that way. Maz, I want to go to you. You're in the LA area. I'm sure you've seen a whole lot of right-wingers attacking those in LA, mocking people who've been struggling, implying that they deserve in some way their own suffering. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, first of all, the blame game. Listen, there will be people and things and climate change and other things to blame and look at and prepare hopefully better for what's coming down the pike. And it's going to happen. This is now an annual thing. So we really need to step that up a bit. But the fact that they're jumping to this blame game at a time when people are suffering and they need to be, showing sympathy and empathy and really coming together as a country. That's the problem. Is there used to be a time when a tragedy happened, both parties would come together as a country and they would be there for the victims. Now, right away, Donald Trump from day one started, in a derogatory fashion, blaming Gavin Newsom. And he has his theory of clearing the brush and all that stuff. Meanwhile, the Palisades fire was in a residential area. It wasn't in the woods. I'm not sure where it got started, but again, there's many things and issues to blame. But these guys are going after their usual talking points. The whole thing of the DEI hire and saying that the police chief, who's a female, is incompetent. I mean, Jesse Waters, there was a clip of him saying something along those lines about, oh, I hope these women that are running this fire department know what they're doing. Basically saying you have to be only white males should be firemen. That's what they think. And if they were firemen, they would have saved us. And if we had a Republican governor, he would have saved us. I mean, it's just all this mumbo jumbo, this whole thing of Donald Trump talking about like Gavin Newsom is not bringing water to Southern California because he's
Well, the other side of that coin is they never take responsibility when they are in charge and stuff happens like COVID, right?
Save the Delta smelt, which is a fish that which has a funny name, Delta smelt. But that's not true. They say things that aren't true. And part of it is they really do this thing of like, if you remember, I think it was when there was hurricanes in Florida or something, and Trump came out and said, oh, Biden's not going to send relief because it's a red state. They do this thing where they project the way they act onto the other party. Same thing when they say, oh, Biden was weaponizing the DOJ. And now Trump is saying, I want to go after my opponents. And so similarly, when we're here and Charlie Kirk is saying, oh, he should withhold this money, it is ridiculous. It is divisive. And by the way, California taxes pay for a lot of what happens in a lot of these red states, meaning their benefits and all that stuff. Like the amount that we contribute to the economy is so big that, hey, two can play this game. Don't give us the relief. We won't give you we'll just keep all our taxes and you can go on your own. I mean, Charlie Kirk is a real stupid idiot.
Yeah, nice way to finish that off.
The tone changed there at the end, but
it threw me off.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What took me, I went around and finally I was like, oh, that's what I meant to say.
Thank you. I'm glad you got there eventually, Maz.
Yeah.
But, I don't care what sexual orientation or race or gender identity someone has or is. I literally just care whether or not they can do the job and if they can do their job well, right? But Trump has already said that he wouldn't give aid to California to fight wildfires because he just wants to stick it to Gavin Newsom because, as Maz mentioned, they're having a dispute over the Delta smelt. But conservatives who follow and admire people like Charlie Kirk are, I think, to Maz's point, just not smart people. And they're probably not very nice people. Because nice people don't say things like this. They don't want these things for other people. They don't look at people who are suffering and think, that's probably your fault. Look, if they want to have a real conversation, if they want to talk about the failings of the Democratic Party, the Democrats will be the first ones to tell them. We will happily tell you what is wrong with the Democratic Party. We're not happy with the party's leadership right now. We're not happy about the direction of the party or of the country. We can have that conversation with them, but whatever they're doing, no, I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to even be around someone who thinks and feels these things. And this is where I think the crux of the divide happens in this country between the two parties is like, I'm really turned off by these people because they say things that I feel are not decent things that decent people would ever say. And they feel the same way about us on this side for some reason.
Yeah, despite the fact that, again, we don't do it. We
don't do it.
And I agree. I want us to continue to be decent. We could do the exact same thing that they're doing, They're like, well, California's got a fire, so obviously it's those goddamn lesbians in charge. Or maybe if it's not the lesbians, then it's Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom better resign because he was the governor when there was a big fire. And obviously when there's a big fire as a governor, you resign, which is why Greg Abbott resigned last year when Texas experienced the biggest wildfire in literal state history.
Right. Great example.
Remember, everybody? when the Smokehouse Creek fire burned more than 1 million acres, and Greg Abbott was like, I can't believe that I failed to such an epic degree. I'm outie 5,000. You remember, everybody, when that happened? No, I don't remember it. And they received aid. But honestly, they probably shouldn't. Biden should have said, no, you guys keep making these mistakes. Like, you do that separate power grid thing, and that's why you have brownouts throughout the summer, and then you don't winterize your electricity, so that's why you lose power during the winter. So we'll give you aid once you rehook up to the national power grid. You know, because we all act like that. We could do that. We could say we're not giving Florida hurricane aid until they clear out coastal areas. Shut down Mar-a-Lago. It's too much of a risk. It's going to cost too much money when it gets destroyed. So you got to clear all that out, and then maybe we'll give you hurricane aid. Now, we won't do that because we are decent, but we could. You know, and every time we get pushed around like this, I think more and more Democrats think maybe we should try doing it the other way.
Good points. John Iadarola making some good points. Hard to dispute. Let me know what you think in the comments.